Hello. All right, so for today's class, what I'm gonna do is move forward with the Connect 4. I talked a little bit last time that I would add in some animations and some polish, but I realized that the game right now isn't quite ready for that. First, we need to complete what's called the game loop. So basically give the players the ability to go in, play, determine who the winner is, display that information, and then let them restart a new game if they want to. So that's what I'm going to focus on today. And then on Friday, I'm going to add in some extra polish to finish up the project. So this video is the second last one. Friday will be the last. And then next week, we'll be starting on new material. And of course, this project for you guys is due next week, next Wednesday. Okay, so let's see here. I'm going to go to so I've got Connect 4 open, and one of the things you'll notice is I've added a few new assets. So these are custom assets that I created, and these are for the game over conditions and restarting the game. So pretty much they're just simple ones here, like wins, yellow wins, and then play again, okay? All right. So we're gonna also go into the folder, and I'm going to open up in brackets, and I will now, let's try that again. Okay, so I've got my JavaScript code where we left off, and I'm also going to go and open up my git bash. And I'll just do a git status, and I see that I have these extra files here that right now aren't tracked. Now, as I begin my development, I'm gonna wanna switch to a new branch. So I'm gonna go git checkout-b, and the name of the branch is game loop this time. So that's gonna switch me to that branch, and I'll do a git status, and it does say that I'm on the branch game loop, and I'm going to add, I'm going to use an asterisk, so I'm going to add everything because those are the 3 files and I know that I want all of them. And now when I say git status, I'm going to see that those files have now been added to my repository, which is good. All right, so let's now begin work. So let's fire this up and see where we left off. Okay, so as we can see, we're able to place pieces, right? But if the player places several in a row, it doesn't detect the game over conditions. So it never stops, and we don't have the ability to restart it without going in and refreshing the game. So that's pretty much what we're gonna focus on today. As soon as we get to a point where one player has won, we wanna show a prompt saying this player won, and below it, we wanna show a prompt basically saying play again, that the player can click on. Okay, so one thing I want to demonstrate that's going to be really helpful, and I'll post this link here on D2L, but basically there's a such thing as an enumeration, okay? And now that we're finishing our game loop, we're going to need to check for a bunch of conditions. For example, are we in the middle of the game? Has the red player won? Or has the yellow player won? And typically what we've done is we've used Boolean variables to store these types of things. The problem though is that when you start working on a game loop, there can be more than one on or off state, right? So that means that you would then have to start adding multiple Booleans. So maybe you would have a Boolean for is game over, right? And that would be false when you start. And then when one of the players wins, you would set that to true. But you don't know which player won, so now you'd have to add an additional Boolean, which would be player 1 winner, okay? And if player 1 ends up winning, you set that to true, but if the other player wins, you set that to false. So now you have 2 Booleans, and this is a very simple game. And there might be several more states that come up. And the problem here is you end up adding all these Booleans, and it doesn't translate into very easy to maintain or read code. So an enumeration is a great technique. So I'm going to put this link here, and let's go to content. Okay, lectures, and we'll go May 13th. Okay. Let's see. Enumeration. And I'll paste that link in right there. Okay. So basically what I'm going to do though is I am going to use this technique of creating an enumeration. I'm going to use this technique, enumerations with objects, and I'm going to create one for the three states we have in the game, that we can either be playing, or the game can be over and player 1 was victorious, or player 2 was victorious. I guess the third one is that no one was victorious, so that would be a draw. So I'll include that one as well. All right. So in my code here, I'm going to do this right at the top. So I'm going to say const state equals, and the first state is going to be playing, and that's going to have a string value of playing. And the next one will be I'll just say red wins. And the next one will be yellow wins. And the next one will be draw. Okay, so there we go. Now, to use this object, we now create another value, which is going to be, so this will be var game state equals state dot playing, because at the start of the game, I'm going to be playing. And then if someone wins or the game is a draw, we can then change this at the end of the game. Okay, so we got that taken care of. Now the next thing we probably want to do is add our new assets. So we have several assets here. I'm just going to rearrange this code slightly. This offset, I'm going to move this down. And I'm now going to create variables for the 3 new assets that I have. So let's go to my folder, and the assets I have are play again, red wins, and yellow wins. Okay. So var play again image equals new image. Play again image dot source is going to be equal to assets. Okay. Play again .png, and okay, now we have to do player the winning players. So we have red wins and yellow wins. So red wins image red wins image dot source is assets. Okay, and then yellow wins. All right, so great, we got those. So moving right along, next up, we have to now check for the win condition. And this is actually probably the most complex piece of code that we have to write. So every time we place a piece, when we're playing, we need to now go and check, is the game over, essentially. Okay, so I'm gonna add a new function. So I'll add it right here. All right, now, when we write this function, we have the option of scanning the entire board, right? We could go through the entire board, write an algorithm that would detect if there's any place where we have four pieces in a row. However, we can do an optimization here to only check the position at where the last piece was placed. And that's probably a good idea. It's probably going to work a little bit better. So I'm just seeing here, where do I want to put this function? So after we place the piece, then we probably want to call this function. So I'm actually going to put this here. And let's see here. Okay, so I've got CheckWin. Now I need to pass CheckWin then, the row, actually the column and the row that I'm going to be using where I place the last piece. That's going to have to get passed into to CheckWin. Okay, and let's see here. Okay, so I think I'll make this call here then. So as soon as I place the piece, if I place it for the player 1 or player 2, this is where I'm going to call CheckWin. Okay, so, and I'll pass it the column and the row. And I'm also going to pass, I should also pass it the player. Okay, there we go. There we go. Now, with Connect 4, obviously, there's four places we have to then test. We have to test for a vertical row, we have to test for a horizontal, and then we have 2 diagonals that we have to test for. So that makes this code somewhat challenging. So to start with, I don't recommend trying to go and write code that'll handle all 4 cases at once. Let's start with just handling a simple case, which will be one of the vertical positions. So in my CheckWin, I'll just make a comment here. I'm just going to check vertical. I'll just do this for now. We can always come back and then add in the other directions once we know that the vertical positioning is working. Okay. So we have a row and column, and basically I'm going to write 2 routines. One is going to move up from the position that they placed the last piece, and basically it's going to keep going up until either it doesn't find a piece of the same color, or there's an empty spot, or it runs off the end of the board. And this is actually fairly easy to do. So I'm going to get a new value. So let row to check. I'm going to start that at row. So I don't want to modify the row variable. I'm going to create a new variable that I can then move up and down the row. So now I'm going to do a while loop. So while row to check is less than, in this case, actually I'm going to move up. So the row at the top is row 0, then row 1, then row 2. So I'm going to say, well, row to check is greater than 0. Then I'm going to basically move down a row. So I'm going to say row to check minus minus. And now I'm going to actually check. So if row to check equals, okay, so hold on, it's not row to check. So if I'm going to go back to my board, so board column row to check equals player. So if there's a piece that player placed at the row just above, as I keep going up, then I'm going to basically add to a variable saying that I have an extra piece there. So I now need another value. So I'm going to say let count equal, and I'm going to start this value at 1 because I already know that there's 1 piece placed there. So I'm going to say count plus plus. Okay, so I'm moving up from, say I'm in row 4, say they place it on the first column, row 4. Okay, I have a value of 1, I move up, okay, by subtracting 1 from the row, and now I check, do I have the same color piece? If I do, then I keep going up and I keep adding to the count. And if I don't, then I break out of the loop. Okay, so we got that taken care of. And now I'm gonna check below. So I basically need the same sort of loop here. And I'm gonna say, well, okay, hold on. I'm just gonna say, well, row to check is less than, and in this case, I have 6 rows, so the last row is going to be index 5, because it's gonna be go 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I'm gonna say, well, the last row is less than 5, I'm gonna now move down. So I'm gonna increase my row, I'm gonna move down. And if I find another piece, I'm going to say that I'm gonna add to my count, otherwise I'm going to break. So that should work. And now at this point, if count is greater than, really it should be equal to 4. There shouldn't ever be a case where I go from, I place a piece and now, no, I suppose it could, because I could place a piece that would connect to others. So it's gonna be, if it's greater than or equal to 4, because it could be a larger chain than 4. In this case, now I'm going to set my win condition. So I have my variable up here, my game state, and it'll be set to playing initially. So I'm gonna now change this so that it is now set to something else. So I'm gonna say game state. Okay, so I need an if condition. So if player equals 1, game state equals state dot yellow wins. Else, game state equals state dot red wins. Okay, so there we go. We have an if loop, if statement. Now, I'm going to show you one thing here that you can do if you want to use basically a more compact syntax. This is a very, very simple if statement. This can actually be done on one line. So I could go game state equals player equals 1 question mark, and then if it is player equals 1, I would go state dot yellow wins. If it's not, the else would be state dot red wins. Oops. Okay, and that's in that case, because it's such a simple if statement, that's actually a much nicer way to do it, because look at how much code I've saved. Okay, and there's really no drawback to this. If it's a more complex if-else statement, then you probably want to avoid something like this. Okay, so we've got that. We've changed our game state, which is great. So we got CheckWin, all that stuff. So now we need to basically hook this into our game. So in this case, let's see, I haven't called CheckWin. Oh, here we go. I call CheckWin, and then I exit after they've placed their piece. Okay. All right. So in the draw function, I really need to now draw the condition to show that someone has won the game. And also in my get mouse position, right now, whenever they click, I'm always adding new pieces. But I don't want them to continue adding new pieces after the game is over. So let's just detect if the game is actually, let's just test our code at this point. We don't want to get too far ahead. So in CheckWin, I'm going to now do a console log. Game over. Okay. Uh-oh, we have some errors. Okay, line 24. Okay, let's go take a look here. Line 24, play again image. dot source equals assets play again dot png. That looks right. Okay, I'm not seeing what the issue is. Unexpected string. Oh, I don't have an equals. Okay, no equals there. So there we go. Just a syntax error. Okay, line 81. If board equals player. Okay, I see an issue there. So line 81, if board to check, I don't want to have that. And I'm gonna have to fix that one as well. Okay, there we go. So I got my board, and now I'm just gonna add pieces until, okay, there we go. I just got my game over, okay? But right now it allows me to keep adding pieces. So I don't want it to do that. I want it to only allow me to enter pieces if I'm in the playing state. So we'll go back to this, and inside my get mouse position, the code that I run here is place piece, and then that goes in, places the piece, and then checks for the win condition. So I only want to do that if game state equals state.play. Okay, so we got that set up. So now if I try this, as soon as the game ends, okay, now that's a problem. It looks like I'm counting, I don't know how to count. Okay, it goes game over. It goes game over at 3. Okay, so let's see here. CheckWin. I start my count at 1. And if greater than or equal to 4, that's game over. That seems weird. I would have thought. So I subtract and I add. I know why. I'm not resetting my row to check. So row to check, I set it to row, and then I move up, but then I also move down from that position. So I'm double counting some of these. So I need to go row to check equals row. I need to reset to the piece that was last placed. So now, there we go. Now we hit the game over, okay? So now it won't let me add any more pieces, which is good. Just to do another test, we can do something like this. So now I'll start adding the yellow piece and the red pieces on top of each other. And there we go. It detects that condition as well. Okay. All right, so we've got the game over condition detected. Now what we want to do is simply draw our game over images. So in our draw function, I'm going to now do another statement here. So basically, if game state equals state.redwins, and then I'm going to go, oops, else if so we have state.yellowwins. Okay, so these are the two states. And I'm now going to draw my image. So I'm going to say CTX draw image, and the first one is going to be Red Wins image. And I'm going to draw both of these at, we know that our board size, if we look at our canvas, is 726 by 726 horizontal, 626 vertically. So I'll go with 200 horizontal, and let's just say 200 in the y-axis. And we'll do the same thing for the yellow win image. Okay, so we got that set up. And now we just need to make sure the draw function is going to be called after the game is over. So it goes here, CheckWin, that's going to set the flag, it's going to break, and then it's going to call draw. Okay, so that looks pretty good. So let's try this out. Okay, there we go. So we get our yellow wins. Now it'd be nice, one thing you can think about for polish, it'd be nice if we had sort of a slightly transparent gray quad that we could place over the entire board, and then but place our game over images in front of. So we've got that set up, that's good. Now the only problem is we can't restart the game. Except, I mean, we can refresh it, but we want to have a button that they can actually click on to restart the game. So I'm also going to do that, draw that as well. So I'm going to have another if statement, or I could just draw it in both of these. It doesn't really matter. So let's go ctx.drawImage, play again image, and we need a position for this. So I'll go 200 horizontally, and I'm just going to put it slightly below the other image. So I'll go 350, and I'll do that one again here. Okay. Oops, it's going to be a longer game. I think red's going to take it this time. Okay, so red wins, we get our play again button, and now the only problem is we're not actually able to click on it yet and do anything. So that's what we will add next. So when I come into my code here for getting the mouse position, if the state is playing, I'm going to call the place piece function. And this function places a piece on the board, then it checks to see if the game is over, and then it draws the board. What I want to do is I'm going to do an else statement. So else, if the game is over, now I want to detect if I've clicked on the play again rectangle that contains the image. So basically I know that that image starts at, if I look at where I placed it, I placed it at 200 horizontally and 350 vertically. And now I can also go and look at the properties for this image. So I can see that the image is 332 pixels horizontal and 99 pixels vertically. So I'm gonna add, I'll just write these down, and I'm gonna basically add these to my initial dimension, and I'm going to be able to detect if the X position is between 200 and it's between 532. That means it's within the range of the image. And if the Y position is between 350 and 449, I know it's within the Y position of the image. So I can just do a simple if statement, and that'll tell me if that mouse click was on that image. So right here, I'll say if X is greater than or equal to 200 and X is less than or equal to, and that's going to be 532, and Y is greater than 350, greater than or equal to 350, oops, and Y is less than or equal to 349. And if that's the case, then I simply want to basically restart the game. Okay, so and to restart the game is pretty simple. We have a board here that we initialize with zeros to indicate there's no pieces there, and we place a 1 or a 2 depending upon which player placed the last piece. We also have a game state variable here. So that's the only things I have to reset. I just take the game state and I go game state equals playing, and then I'm going to take this loop here and I'm going to reset all of the values in my array. I don't need to reinitialize it. I'm going to set all the values on the board to zeros again to indicate that there's no pieces. Okay, let's try this out. There we go. Game over, yellow wins. Uh-oh. Okay, interesting. If x is greater than, x is less than, y is greater than, y is less than. Okay, so this might be a good case for the console.log. Let's see if this is hitting. It's not. What? Okay, so the x coordinate 351, y is 406. Oh, I see. I went, okay, I know what I did. I went 250, but it should be 350, and it's 449. Okay, so that's a simple one. I don't need that console log now. All right, here we go. Okay, play again. No, no, still not. Oh, there. Okay, I know what's going on. Okay, so it is hitting, but it's not calling the draw function. So there we go, red wins. I hit it. It's resetting the game, but it doesn't call the draw function. When I click again though, it places a piece and it calls draw. So essentially, I just need another draw call here. There we go. Okay, so we got that pretty much set up. So now we actually have a viable game loop. So what is left is basically a bit of polish. The assets, when the game over assets pop up, there needs to be some sort of backing between them and the board, because otherwise they're very hard to see right now. It'd be nice if we could do sort of a simple animation for placing the pieces. That would really improve the board. And then the last thing is we need to fix up the detection. So right now I'm only going up and down, but I also need to move horizontally and also diagonally to check for the pieces. And fortunately, that code is going to be very similar. I can pretty much take my CheckWin and I can just add essentially 6 more conditions, or basically duplicate this 3 more times for those other conditions. Now, there could be a fancier, a better solution that would require less code, and I might try something like that. Now, keep in mind, if you're following along and want to give it a shot, you might want to go and modify the CheckWin. See if you can, start off with the horizontal one and see if you can get the horizontal CheckWin to work. Anyway, Friday's video, that's going to be the final one. I'm going to finish this project. I'll finish up checking the win conditions, and I'll add a little bit of polish to the board. And then next week we can move on to some new stuff. Okay, well that's going to be it for today's video. I'll talk to you guys on Friday.